What are you scared of? You've chosen yesterday's power. Today's power is the global south. Because Dasa Sila is still important. And by the way, Dasa Sila talks about self-sufficiency. At that time, 55, 56, 57, that whole period, whole of Asia was gripped by the idea. And it may be the stronger one. From China, from Colombia, this may be the stronger wind. Maybe the president of Indonesia has chosen the weaker wind.
Salam Pancasila. Kawan, bertemu lagi dengan saya Winarko Ngantiwani di Ruang Dialektika. Sebuah siniar yang menurut saya sangat istimewa, karena untuk pertama kalinya kita mengundang pengamat tentang sejarah Indonesia dari luar. Karena biasanya kami mengundang para pengamat di Indonesia, hari ini kita kedatangan seorang pemikir, pengamat, Direktur Eksekutif Trikontinental Institute for Social Research. Sebuah konsep yang nanti akan saya minta penjelasannya. Kenapa memakai nama Trikontinental? Karena itu konsep yang sangat menarik. Karena dulunya katanya itu sangat radikal karena dibawakan oleh Che Guevara, tapi sekarang dibawakan sebagai social research. Gitu. Vijay Prashad, welcome to the podcast.
Amazing. With Narco and Erlanga, well, I feel so welcome and happy.
You're welcome.
Only problem is no Indonesian. Only Indonesian I know is Merdeka.
Okay.
That's it. I wish I could speak to you in Indonesian.
No problem.
6 months you stay here, you'll be fluently in Indonesian.
I hope so.
Vijay, thank you again for your time to attend our podcast. We call ourselves Ruang Dialektika, dialectic room, because we feel that for the last 3 or 4 years, the democratic room for speaking openly about, especially for your expertise, something a bit leftist, is getting narrower and narrower in Indonesia. So we want to keep that room open. And in the spirit of, we want to celebrate 71 years of Bandung Conference in Indonesia. We mostly know it as Konferensi of Asia and Africa, because no Latin American country participated in the conference. Right? We want to get your insight about what this event meant for global South, especially relevant today, because only yesterday, probably you already read it yourself, President Lula called for evaluation of United Nations because of how they are seemingly unable to have any resemblance of power regarding what happened in the Middle East. And now you are here and you write awful lot about what happened in Bandung Conference. Gitu. Me and Erlanga will try to absorb your insight into this. I want to start with what Lula saying about. Is it really that right now multilateralism is dying?
Well, look, I mean, conducted an illegal war against Iran after it illegally kidnapped Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, and Celia Flores, the first combatant.
Yeah. Sovereign
Israel,
nation, yeah?
Huh?
Sovereign nation.
All sovereign nations is continuing an illegal war against Lebanon, is continuing a grinding. These are all violations of international law. I mean, these are violations of the UN Charter. The attacks on Venezuela, Iran, and Lebanon are violations of Article 2 of the United Nations Charter, which is signed by 193 countries. These are countries that have a treaty obligation to uphold the United Nations Charter. 3 wars conducted by the and against 3 sovereign countries Nobody has raised this at the UN Security Council. Number one. Number two, going on since October 2023. In fact, this has been going on since 1948,
Yes. Okay.
much earlier than that. There are UN resolutions after UN resolutions.
No
There are so
enforcement.
many UN resolutions, no enforcement. Exactly. No enforcement. So you can actually credibly say that multilateralism is wounded. It's on the floor. Yeah, I mean, if you can't condemn for starting an illegal war against Iran, violating Article 2 of the Charter, going to war at the time when they're negotiating with Iran in good faith through the offices of Oman. There's a negotiation happening.
Yeah.
The negotiation, as the Omani foreign minister said, had reached a point where they almost had a breakthrough.
Mhm.
And then you not only kill the supreme leader, an
Yes.
illegal because he's not a combatant, then you kill 168 schoolgirls.
Yeah.
So what multilateralism is there in action in this situation? It's true what Lula said. Multilateralism is wounded, fatally wounded maybe. We have to revive it. You see, you can't say it's fatally wounded and leave it to bleed to death.
Mm.
It has to be revived. We don't have any other instrument. The United Nations has a charter. That's a treaty. That means
Yeah.
states are
Yeah.
obliged
Yeah.
to honor the
Yeah.
treaty.
Signed by all the members, right?
Signed into law. Where is Indonesia on the illegal attack on Iran? Where is every country? Why haven't they raised this? It's an illegal attack. Nobody has raised this. The war against the Iraqis, 2003, illegal. No UN Security Council resolution under Chapter 7 authorizing a war. 2003, 20 plus years ago, there was an illegal war against Iraq. Nobody said anything. That means it feels it can do it again. It's done it again and again and again.
Yeah.
Nobody says anything.
Yeah.
It's about time somebody said something.
So it's not a short process to we come to this situation where multiculturalism is powerless against, especially what they done in Middle East, right? What situation that support our current predicament that almost all of the country have no power?
In fact, they do have power. That's what's the tragedy. They are just not using it.
Then why? Why they're not using it?
That's the question. So firstly, we should raise a coffee or a water to the Iranian people for resisting against,
Yeah.
because they are not surrendering.
Yeah.
And they are saying, you can come and land on our soil, we'll fight you.
Yeah.
100 million Iranians. You want to kill 100 million people? You can't even 2.3 million. How are you going to kill 100 million Iranians? We'll fight you from street to street.
Yes.
Nobody is going to support you. Come. Is losing this war. They are losing it because you can destroy a bridge, but you can't occupy it. Like they lost in Afghanistan to the Taliban.
Yeah.
You can do all kinds of things, but you can't conquer people so easily. You don't have a plan or a project for them. But that means that countries should be strengthened by Iran. Indonesia should feel strong looking at Iran. Inspired by Iran. It's not that there are no countries. Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, small countries in Africa, vulnerable countries. They created the Alliance of Sahel States. They don't agree with what's happening from Washington. They want to build something different. Lula himself saying multilateralism needs to be revived. The president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum of the Moreno Party, standing up to the Cubans. Cuban president told me, I asked him, what do you think about? He said, we'll fight them till the end. We are not surrendering. Cuban president said so. I trust him. I believe in him. Look at the Marwan Barghouti, 24 years in prison. Ahmad al-Sadat, head of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, 24 years in prison. They're not surrendering. We should be inspired by them.
Yeah.
They keep fighting. Xi Jinping, China, standing tall. They're not surrendering. Change your currency, do this, do that.
No.
He said, no, we are not going to do it. Forget it.
My ship will just pass through.
Colombia president also.
Colombia president,
Yes.
Gustavo Petro, I don't care what you say. I'll do
Yes.
what we want. In fact, the Prime Minister of Spain,
Yes.
Pedro Sanchez, not that nobody is standing up. It's that everybody is.
Okay. Okay.
And
Mhm.
big countries like India, like Indonesia, we are just surrendering.
I want to turn to Angga to understand why we are not standing up. We only pass our condolences
Yes.
for the for the kill of Khamenei after President been pressured by social society organization, after he was given example by former President Megawati that we are brothers with
Yes.
Iran as a country. Why the reluctance? Why the hesitation? Or why the indecision
Yes.
to stand up for Iran?
Yes, I think the Indonesian position, according to Iran, is wrong, big wrong. We can analyze from some perspective, from the perspective of historical perspective. We know that Indonesia have a huge historical stand
Hmm.
against imperialism, against colonialism. That Sukarno said, destroy the neocolonialism and imperialism. And we have the principle of foreign policy about free and active stand, politik bebas aktif. And Bung Karno, interpret this this principle in his text, in his speech, the Bell of Revolution voice.
Hmm.
He said that our revolutions connected to the march of the social conscience of human.
Mm.
Yes. And the situation in this speech in the 1963, there are big wave about anti-imperialisms in Africa. In the 1960s, the Congo, with the heroes of Patrice Lumumba, declared the independence. In these years, around the 1962, I think, the Aljazair, by the FLN, declared the independence. And all of this, in many countries, in the 1960s, the Vietnam War, the Vietnam people,
Mm.
the poor people of Vietnam, can stand against. This is about what Sukarno called about the march of the social conscience of man. So he defined the free and active, the free related to think independently to the position,
Okay.
and free from domination and pressure from outside.
Okay.
This is the problem of Indonesia now.
Not going with the wind blow, yeah.
Yeah, but the question is, which wind are you following?
Yes.
Because there's another wind.
Yes.
We just described the wind.
Stronger one.
We
The stronger one at the moment.
We described the wind, and it may be the stronger one from China, from Colombia. This may be the stronger wind.
Yes.
Maybe the president of Indonesia has chosen the weaker wind. He has made a strategic mistake. He is allying with a country that cannot buy your nickel. It cannot buy your finished products. It can't buy anything from you. Yeah, I mean, you're accepting tariffs for what reason? Yeah,
That's right.
what are you scared of? You've chosen yesterday's power.
Hmm.
Today's power is the global south.
Yes, right.
Today's power is not the it's a dying
Sunset
Yeah.
Empire, eh?
sunset empire.
Yes.
So when we say you are right, he went the way the wind blows. Question is which wind? The strong wind or the weak wind? He didn't pick the strong wind, in my opinion. It's a miscalculation. And I think the president needs to recognize that having picked the weak wind, the wind of the he will be isolated. Indonesia, he keeps saying that we want Indonesia to be on the global stage. I agree with him. I 100% agree with former General Prabowo, President. 100% agree that Indonesia must have a big role on the world stage. I 100% agree. Yeah, and should have had it earlier. 100% agree. But in which stage? Which win? Which stage? The weak win? The falling stage. Don't pick the falling stage, board of peace. That's not the stage. The stage is the Brics.
Yes, right.
The stage is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The stage is stand with Asia. You see, in Indonesia, in my opinion, somewhere in the eastern part of Indonesia, in 2 or 3 years, the government of Indonesia should organize an Asian summit. Should invite India, Pakistan, all the Asian countries. At this summit, there should be a declaration, minimum declaration of Asian unity,
Yes.
that India and Pakistan should pledge that they will try to solve their border dispute.
Yes, right.
India and China pledge they will try to solve the border dispute, and they start a process to create an Asian union, like an African union,
Yes, right.
like the organization of Latin American states.
Yes.
New Pan-Asian, yeah?
New, but not Japanese. This time multilateral. Why not call it somewhere in the east of Indonesia, in a small place, and make it the new Bandung?
Okay.
Let Bandung be Bandung, 1955. On the 75th anniversary of Bandung,
Yes.
have an Asian summit in the east and call it the Asian Summit and found the Asian Union. That's the strong stage.
Yes.
The weak
Yeah.
stage is to stand next to Trump.
Yeah.
That stage is
And
falling.
say yes for
Yes,
whatever
right.
Trump asking.
You only, that means you don't know English very well. You only know the word yes. You haven't yet learned the word no.
What confusing most of our foreign policy observers was that
Yes.
Indonesia and under Prabowo declared that they would join BRIC in early when Prabowo ascended to power. But after that,
Yes.
there was like
Is
no follow up whatsoever about what it's meant to join BRIC. What changed between 2025
Yes,
and
yes,
now?
right. Yes, I will add the explanation from the Vijay Prashad. I think the Prabowo or maybe some elites in Indonesian government now is misled to analyze based on the realist. They don't know about what the meaning of realist. The realist perspective, if we track not only on the academicians, but also from the Hegel. Hegel said about the zeitgeist. The zeitgeist about the spirit of the time. The spirit of the time now, in the perspective, the falling down of the empire. Imperialism and its alliance fall in the productions, in the what is financials, and its hegemon. But on the other hand, like Sukarno said, the new emerging forces now awake. If you look the China, if you look the Brazil, if you look the everything, India, why the president of Indonesia or the government of Indonesia didn't learn the history from the Bung Karno text about the Indonesian Revolution should be connected from the march of human social conscience. This is big problem. I think they misled about how to think strategically, how to think realistically, how to think progressively. That's the problem of what you asked me. Why from the Brics and then you slip to the.
What about you? What changed? What changed in those interval time between 2025 and now?
I'm not sure that it's a change, because firstly, we have to understand what is BRICS. BRICS is not a political body.
Yes,
Okay.
economic.
No political,
Bricks is,
not political pact, yeah.
No, it's a trade body.
Yeah.
It's about increasing South-South trade.
Mhm.
Indonesia, I think, quite correctly has understood
Mhm.
that the final market for its products is not going to be USA and Europe. That
Yeah.
day has ended.
Yeah.
Their growth rates are at 1%, 2%, very low. Germany can't absorb products from Indonesia. France cannot. England, they just can't. Indonesia needs new markets. It's also a destination for Chinese goods and it's selling goods to China. It's enormous volume of goods. But it needs to diversify.
Mm.
You can't just sell to China,
Mm.
and buy from China and so on. You got to diversify. You got to sell to the South Asian subcontinent. You got to sell to Africa, Latin America. This is a huge world out there.
Yes. Yeah.
So BRICS is an entry point
Yeah.
into
Yes,
trade.
right.
Okay.
And I think joining BRICS, when Indonesia joined BRICS, there was a misunderstanding. There was a feeling like, oh, now Indonesia is increasingly going to be a global South country. No. Indonesia has a big internal journey. It has a journey. Yeah, it has a journey to make. You emerged from a period of difficulty in the 1990s, but you've emerged just like South Africa, slowly, hesitantly,
Mm.
back and forth, zig and zag, lots of reversals.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lot of reversals.
Yeah.
Confusions. The left hasn't been able to assert itself. So much of left-wing thought is still banned.
Yes,
Ideas are banned. And there's no real sense of how to change that. I mean, it's
Yes, right.
pretty ridiculous that in 2026, Marxism is banned. I mean, Marxism is nothing other than
Yes.
a mirror to reality.
Realities, yes, right.
It's a mirror. So you ban the mirror. So if you ban the mirror,
Yeah. Yeah.
then
Yeah.
people can't see reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
They just look at reality but can't understand it. How does capitalism function? The moment you actually look deeply into capitalism, you're reconstructing Marxism.
Yes.
You don't need Marx to tell you
Yes.
about Marxism. Capitalism
So it
shows you
So-
Marxism.
the ugliness is covered.
Yes, because once you start asking the question, why is it that workers work so hard but they remain poor?
Yes.
You will
Yeah.
come up with the theory of surplus value.
Yes.
Because-
You will understand what property relations are.
Because-
So why ban Marxism? They didn't ban Marxism. That's the interesting thing. When a government bans Marxism, it's not actually banning Marxism. It's banning Marxists. It's not Marxism that they ban. Marxism is the mirror of reality.
Realities.
They ban Marxists.
Marxist.
the people who understand what
They don't want Marxists there. Why? Because in fact they are banning education. It's an interesting way of banning education because they are making education about the transfer of basic skills to work in the economy. They have taken out education as critical thought.
Yeah.
So when they say we ban Marxism, they've banned Marxists.
Yeah.
In fact, they are banning critical thinkers.
precisely what happened with Dutch when they occupy.
Yes,
after.
It is identical. No
Yeah.
critical
Yeah.
thinking allowed.
Just taught until you can work in the factory.
Teach
What
people
the-
until they can work in the factory. Teach them enough geography, map reading so that they can become delivery drivers. Teach them so that they can work. But don't teach them skills to turn around and analyze
Yeah.
what's happening
Yes, sir.
make them spectators of history. This is important because we always say, oh, they banned this kind of thinking. In fact, I really don't think that's what happens. They ban the people. And if you ban Marxists in one generation, it's difficult to have a new generation of Marxists. Even if the books are there, these are fields of thought that require teaching,
Yeah.
that require the generation of knowledge.
Yeah.
Methodologies have
Yes,
to be
right.
transferred. You break the chain so that you can create a society with nobody who can teach other people how to think
Yes.
critically. And then you create institutions where people have to work so hard to teach that there's no time for them
to question
to do anything. I mean, the teachers become effectively like workers in a McDonald's. They're teaching 12 classes. There's no money for students to read anything. They are commuting long distance. Teachers themselves become just regular workers, just transferring information, using textbooks.
Even less, because most our teachers pay less than most other.
Absolutely, they have to take extra work and so on.
Yes.
Yeah. So all of this is about destroying a society's ability to be critical of itself. You can't advance if you can't be critical of yourself. Just last week, in the magazine of the Communist Party of China, Xi Jinping released a very important article on reading. He said it's important for everybody to read. You
This
need
is
to
Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping on last Thursday in Kyushu, which is the magazine of the Communist Party of China. It's a very important article because he says everybody in China must read. They must be reading. Why? Because reading teaches you to understand your society. And you can't develop a society if every person doesn't have an understanding of society, is capable of being critical of their own society and advancing things, changing things, making it better. If you're defensive about your society, you stagnate. You don't grow.
Yeah.
To grow, you have to allow people to think.
Yeah.
And it's so important to say that, because banning Marxism was banning Marxists, was banning self-critical thinking in a society,
Yes, right.
was banning innovation. Which is why you end up not making an Indonesian car or an
Yes, right.
Indonesian cell phone or an Indonesian fast train. You have to import it because you've banned
Yes.
innovation.
It's become really tragic when we connected this with the fact that in our early years as a nation, we almost that's what all of you saying. We organize a big conference. We invite 29 countries across Asia and Africa. We invite all spectrum of thinker, because there are Zhou Enlai,
Yes.
also, but also Romulo.
Yes.
There are religious figure, but
The
also
King Faisal.
the King Faisal,
Yes.
but also African revolutionary. And this only in our 5 years after we fully independent,
Yes.
right? We are recognized by Dutch
Yes,
in 1950.
10 years after the independence.
No, I mean after we are finishing our War of Independence, right?
Okay.
I mean, in our young age, Indonesia, the founding father have shown that we are capable of doing such. What lost in this period? What missing in our struggle as a nation?
In 1955, Nehru said that Bandung is the capital of Africa in
Africa.
Asia. He said it's a capital of Africa in Asia in 1955. Indonesia was at the center of the discussions about anti-colonialism. Indonesia was one of the hosts of the non-aligned movement in Belgrade. Tito of Yugoslavia, Nasser of Egypt, Nkrumah of Ghana, Nehru of India, and Sukarno of Indonesia. 5 of them hosted the first non-aligned meeting in Belgrade. That's in 1961. 4 years later, a coup takes place in Indonesia. Million people killed, communists,
Yes.
sympathizers, trade unionists,
Sukarno
people who supported the revolutionary movement, the Merdeka movement. They were killed, or they were sent to Buru Island,
Yes.
or they went into exile in Europe, other parts of Asia,
Yeah.
or they went back to their villages and hid for the rest of their
Yes.
life
Yes.
Until now,
until now, hiding what they were, which
Yes.
was patriotic nationalists. Why do you have to hide being a patriot? From 1965 to 1998, 99, Indonesia vanishes from the world stage. Indonesia plays almost no role. General Suharto was not the leader of any process, not even a right-wing process. During the coup d'etats in South America, they didn't invite General Suharto, General Pinochet, the junta in Argentina. They didn't invite General Suharto. They didn't stand together, all the generals who did coup d'etats together. There was no Indonesia in that. Yes, it's true. In Chile, it's true that a year before the coup in 1973, people started writing on the walls the word Jakarta. It's true.
Jakarta method.
It's true. They wrote the word Jakarta. That's true. But that was a metaphor. That wasn't the real Indonesia. That was a metaphor. Mr. General Suharto was not invited by Pinochet to come there. He was not invited, by Hugo Banzer, Bolivia. He was not invited by Stroessner to come to Paraguay. No, the junta in Brazil or Argentina, nobody invited him. Indonesia was isolated for 30 years. When Indonesia breaks out of isolation in the 2000s, Indonesia appears as NGOs, as part of the anti-IMF, anti-globalization movement. You used to get people, forest rights defender, water defender, etc. They would come to the World Social Forum. We would see some Indonesians. But they were in NGOs.
Yeah.
They were not really part of the legacy of
The nation.
Merdeka. They were in NGOs. And then happens the Bali bombing. Indonesia becomes a place of terrorism, war on terror. Till today, Indonesia is not in the global conversation again. One of the things I'm very keen about is bringing Indonesia into the global conversation. Indonesia, fourth largest country in the world in terms of population, largest Muslim population in the world, one of the major countries in Asia, the major country in Southeast Asia, much more important infinitely than Australia. But if you ask people about this region, they will know Australia before Indonesia. If you ask them what is the capital of Indonesia, will not know it. Will not know how to identify maybe more than one city. I doubt that they'll identify a city. We want Indonesia back in the conversation. We want that. We want the Sukarno legacy back in the discussion. It's essential. It's essential not only for Indonesia, for the world. It's a big part of the global population. It's not a joke. Yeah. And why should Indonesia only be in the conversation? Because of the president or the war on terror or NGOs or tourism. That's not the only thing. And we don't want everything about Indonesia to be 1965.
Yes.
We don't want everything to be 65. We also want 1920s to 1965. We want that history to be awake again, Merdeka. And then what happens now? What is the lineage now of that history? It never died. It was always there. What happens to that history today? So in my opinion, when we say, okay, Indonesia joined the Brics, but what happened next year, joined the Board of Peace? No contradiction. Indonesia joined the Brics so that it could trade more in the global south. Indonesia joined the Board of Trade because the politics are terrible. Yeah, but we don't want to isolate or reduce Indonesia to the president. We want to say that there's 200 and some million people in Indonesia. There's actually currents of progressive movements.
Yes.
There are trade unions. There's political parties. There are all kinds of interesting people. We want to hear more from the Megawati Institute. We want the Megawati Institute's materials known around the world. We want people to read Sukarno. We want them to say, okay, we're going to read Ho Chi Minh, we're going to read Mao, we're going to read Sukarno. These are three important Asian radicals. Mao built China, was a theorist. Ho Chi Minh built the movement for Vietnam, was a theorist. Sukarno, with Hatta and others, built the movement for Indonesia, was a theorist. We have to take them seriously.
Also Kwame Nkrumah.
Africa, Kwame Nkrumah, and many others. Thomas Sankara later and so on. This is the lineage. That we want to bring Sukarno back into the story.
Agree with that much, that rich legacy, with that rich, what can we learn from our founding father? Angga, can you elaborate how they are our founding father in all of this limited situation at that time,
Okay.
limited resources,
Yes.
and our economic still struggling after a long war of independence.
Yes.
How can they envision such movement and theory and applicate it and establish what known as right now what you in your poorer
Nations.
darker nation.
Darker.
It was like the initial stage for non-aligned
Yes.
movement, global South movement,
Yes.
third world movement.
Yes, right.
Yeah, what situation in our founding fathers
Yes.
at that time?
First of all, before I answer your questions, I interest with the Vijay's ideas about how to bring back Indonesia to the world, to the conversation of the world. If I paraphrase the ideas, the introduction of Karl Marx ideas in the Communist Manifesto, I hope Indonesia can inspire like the hound, the specter haunting the idealism and its alliance. The specter is Bandung 1955, the incomplete project of Marxism. That's why we, not only Indonesian people but world, have to know about the Sukarno ideas. You know, because in the period of the 1956, I think, Sukarno clearly defines what the meaning of the essence of imperialism. In Sukarno ideas, the imperialism essence is to prevent us to stand on our feet in economics and sovereignty in politics and have confidence in cultures. The imperialism,
The Trisakti, ya.
Trisakti say about that. The imperialism, as Sukarno says, prevent us to produce our product, to to collect it or create our product by ourselves, to stand on our feet in economics, to unite between land and people. That's why in the 1960s he had the policy about land reform and everything, because imperialism, like if we only buy the product of the imperialism.
Absolutely.
Very leftist program, ya.
But also a normal human program.
Yes.
Self-sufficiency.
Yes.
Okay, I withdraw myself.
Very normal.
The mirror of reality.
I mean, look at it
Yes.
this way. When the invades Japan after 1945, conducts land reform. They did land reform in
Yes,
Japan.
right.
They took the land
No,
away.
no,
from
Taiwan, Korea,
fascist land.
yes.
And no one accused them of communism.
No,
right?
they did. With a gun.
Yes.
They did an armed struggle. Military. They got
Yes.
rid of the Japanese fascist landowners.
Yes, right.
Yeah. And we think that's a perfectly normal thing to do. So why can't we do it in China? Why can't we do it in India? Why can't you do it in Indonesia?
And what message that was resonate around the Asian and African nation at that time? How you can give us the image of at that time, at that period, that Sukarno message or this five leader message can be accepted almost universally, because the 10 statement 10 charter Bandung
Dasa Sila.
Dasa Sila
Bandung was almost like praised universally. Even Malcolm X accepted.
Yes.
Well, why you say Malcolm X? You mentioned Carlos Romolo of
Yes.
Philippines. They signed it. King Faisal of Saudi Arabia
Yes, right.
signed it. Yeah. Sir John Kotalavala,
In Sri
Ceylon,
Lanka.
Sri Lanka, signed it. These are
Right.
all people of the right.
Yes.
Chou En-lai signed it. Man of the left, communist. Everybody signed it. And you know what? I would say today, every school child in Indonesia entering class 8 should be given a printed card with the Dasa Sila. So they study it on the first day of class 8.
Like pocket.
Pocket card. On the first day of class 8 or class 9, somewhere there.
Or better say it like pledge.
A pledge. They all have to sign their card. Yeah, Dasa Sila. Because Dasa Sila is still important. And by the way, Dasa Sila talks about self-sufficiency.
Self-sufficient, yes.
At that time, 55, 56, 57, that whole period, whole of Asia was gripped by the idea of having peace. People wanted peace. When Chou En Lai's plane lands in Jakarta and the door to the plane opens, on the door was a sign that said, "Long live India-China friendship."
Yes.
India-China friendship. Nothing about Indonesia.
Yes.
He lands in Jakarta. Long live in... And he knew that the TV cameras would capture that.
Yeah.
Why did he have that? Because they were worried about India-China tension
Struggle tension.
around the Siachen Glacier. There was already tension.
Okay.
And in Assam, which goes to war in 62. So whole of Asia was gripped with the desire for peace, development, self-sufficiency, decency, good relations between countries. Whole of Asia. Because the Korean War was going on, nobody wanted that. The war was going on in Vietnam, nobody wanted that. Indonesia just came out of a very bloody war against the Dutch, 45 to 48.
Yeah.
Very bloody war against the Dutch. At the time, the British were conducting a terrible campaign to wipe out the opposition in Kenya, Mau Mau rebellion.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah, terrible. In Malaya, the emergency period, the British were fighting a terrible war in Malaya. The Burmese were very concerned about it. Yeah. So the whole of Asia was gripped, hands off Asia. We'll figure out our own thing. We don't need interference by... We'll deal with our own problems and so on. Military bases in Japan. All of this was on the table. So millions, tens, hundreds of millions of people.
That's also what I'm curious about. How come that message at that time, with the limitation of communication, no social media at that time, no central television that broadcast, this is what been agreed upon by all these great men, by this president, can be accepted by the citizen. Because there is one anecdote in Indonesia that after Suharto ascended to power in 67 or 68,
67.
one of the first nations that he visited was Cambodia. And part of the welcoming ceremony, there was a lot of school children that were singing Indonesian folk song, which happened that the song was called Genjer Genjer, which is like a band song because it was associated with communists. And Suharto is, of course, upset. But what the message was that even Cambodian people, Cambodian school children, learning about Indonesian song. And we also thought about that Russian people can sing several Indonesian songs in Africa. But now, almost that people was detached from what happened, whatever agreed upon by the president in multilateral setting. What difference between then and now?
Well, firstly, there was not a absolute explosion of information. Information was much less, much less disseminated. So, for instance, in India, the Indian government newsreels that played in movie theaters before the film would show the Bandung conference. They would say that this is Dasa Sila or a Panch Sila or whatever. Indian newspapers would carry this, the radio would talk about it. And so there was a centralized media in India. There was a centralized media in North Vietnam. Centralized media, this played a role. Yeah, because they actually discuss serious things. Once media becomes privatized, like today, they don't discuss anything seriously. It's all entertainment, So, Prabhupada joins the board of peace. Nobody's really going to discuss it, my friend. They're going to move on to some film star did this, somebody did that. It's a joke,
Anything that can sell.
Anything that can sell. Nobody's interested in long discussions and debates about this. Some people are interested, but it's a fragmented body. People listening to this podcast. I mean, I hope I hope 1 million Indonesians listen, in a way, or somehow get to hear about some of our conversation. I hope so. Who knows? Maybe only 5 people. Who knows? We don't know. But what I can certainly say is that today people want serious discussion. They're
Yes.
looking for it.
Yes.
But the media, which is a capitalist, bought and paid media, is not capable of delivering it. But people want seriousness.
Yeah.
They want answers to the questions. Why is the cost of gasoline gone up? Why has the cost of food gone up? Why will the cost of food be high for the next 3 years? Nobody's explained seriously about how natural gas, which comes from Qatar and so on, is essential for nitrogen-based fertilizers.
Yeah.
And because fertilizers come out of natural gas, if natural gas prices go up, Strait of Hormuz,
Yes.
Yeah.
fertilizer goes up, which means that the food crops
Yeah.
next year and the following year
Yes,
will also
right.
be high.
Yeah.
This is not explained in the radio that you hear in the morning on your drive to your office,
Yeah.
when they are playing music or saying, hey, today's Thursday, it's not going to rain. It's okay. Entertainment is fine, but we also need some seriousness.
I very much curious about the level of cooperation in the people level, in the community level among these nations at that time. Can it, in your opinion, can it be reproduced at this at current
The
setting?
idea of the knowledge.
Yeah, and also general cooperation between nations that was having the same
Yes.
fate, the same situation.
Yes, I think is part of our historical project today, because we have one of the Sukarno said in the Bandung 1955, we have the problem. He said about the freedom and humanity is the important thing, but he said about liberty and freedom not in the abstract way, but in the concrete way. He said about how the problem of poverty, the problem of starving, the problem of illiterate, and everything is become part
Yeah.
of our humanity.
Yeah.
And he said that to finish this project, the people of Africa and Asia should be united. That's the point of the Sukarno said. We have same problem, we have same interest, we have same agenda, but related to the today's about the information, trivial information, trivial entertainment, we not take seriously about how to progress the idea, everything. Also the intellectuals.
Yeah.
In Indonesia also. Some of Indonesian intellectuals just think about the issues. Social issue, political issues, law issue, but not produce the knowledge, not produce the idea. This is the problem, and this is one of the solutions. How we are, as the intellectual, as the people of Indonesia, as part of the organic intellectuals, take the ideas of the concrete freedom, of the how to develop Indonesia, like in the 20 years, the begin years from 45 until 65. We have the crisis of the leadership of ideas. And the leadership of ideas, the leadership of political organizations, the leadership of the brave to change the problem today.
Now I came to the name of your institution, Tricontinental Institute. Of course, the Bandung Conference is now inviting sort of countries, but the name Tricontinental we mostly understand was come up from Che Guevara, which inspired again by Bandung Conference, right? What is your project? What is the goal of your institute that we can like benefit for or expect in the future to fostering this kind of cooperation among global South countries?
I mean, So let me first say why tricontinental.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
in 1955, you had a lot of independent countries in Latin America. They won their independence in the early 19th century,
Yeah.
100 plus years.
So they are
before.
not really newly
They are not
independent.
newly,
Yeah?
but they were recolonized by finance capital
Yeah.
in the
United Fruit, yeah.
1880s. Intervened militarily in many countries and so on. It was not until the Cuban Revolution of 1959 that, in a sense, Latin America came back to its relationship with Africa and Asia.
Bolivia.
Because it was Cuba that then comes to the non-aligned meeting in 1961. And it's the first meeting where Asia, Africa, and Latin America come together. But that meeting was a meeting of states.
Okay.
And Fidel Castro felt that there needed to be a meeting of states and movements. That if you are a movement that is not yet won, you can't come to these meetings.
Yeah.
Because these are interstate gatherings.
Yeah.
So in 1966, the Cubans hosted the Tricontinental Meeting,
Yes, right.
which was held in Havana of movements and states. And so we decided to take the name Tricontinental
Correct.
from the conference of 1966 and use it as a way to talk about the importance of building knowledge from movements.
Okay.
Very important. Linking countries to each other, linking movements of the progressive kind in, let's say, South Africa to Brazil, that they should get to know each other, because so many of the things we have are interstate projects. Like Brics is the interstate project, but we want to build inter-movement dialogue. We want to build knowledge from the movements. And in recent years, I have felt deeply the absence of Indonesia. In recent years, I felt the absence of Indonesia in all of this. And so initially, I began to speak with Max Lane, who I've known for some time. And Max, who lives in Indonesia, is a very good academic. He was the translator of Pram into English. He advised me a little bit about the situation and so on. A very useful, introduction to Indonesian history. But I felt the inadequacy of being in touch with movements and so on. And then when we started to talk about Sukarno, and when I learned of the existence of the Megawati Institute, I felt that what the Megawati Institute is doing is a little similar to what we are doing. It's interested in building knowledge from popular experience, from the history of the liberation movements. We want to have a relationship with them. We want to lift up the voice of Indonesia today, the progressive voice of Indonesia today. We don't just want to complain about what's wrong with Indonesia. We want to show what's happening in terms of popular struggles. What are some of the popular problems?
Yes.
We want to lift up the ideas of Sukarno.
Yes, right.
I mean, that's part of our interest.
Yeah.
I'm interested very much in what I said earlier, which is to bring Indonesia into the global conversation for progressive, into the global progressive conversation.
Yeah, and involving a lot of as many as group as possible, right? Because after Bandung Conference, women movement, labor movement,
Yes,
scholar,
Journalist
they are
movement.
journalists, they are-
Everything that we can find that's progressive.
that's progressive.
Anything that smells progressive,
Yes.
I will smell it twice. Okay? It's very important for us to be open-minded.
Yes, right.
We need to associate with all groups. We need to encourage everybody. But I am particularly interested in a country like this. I'm particularly interested in the center-left. I'm particularly interested in the forces of the center-left that we need to strengthen. Because we cannot marginalize ourselves to small pockets of people who can't associate with the masses.
Okay.
So it's very important that we help strengthen the center left, its ideas, make linkages around the world, open conference, dialogue and discussion. For instance, link the Megawati Institute with the Lula Institute in Brazil.
Okay.
Very important linkage. We have a close relationship with the Lula Institute. We have a close relationship with a number of institutes in other parts of of the global South. We want to make those linkages. And we think that the Global South Academic Forum, for instance, in China, which is held in Shanghai at the end of every year, we would like to have somebody from Indonesia come for that. Perhaps Megawati herself might decide to come and join us there. The Vice President of Ghana will be there. Other people will be there to have a discussion and learn about what is possible in the world today. The Vice President of Ghana comes from a center-left party in Ghana, with which we have very close and good relations. The center-left in Sri Lanka. I'm a great believer in this period that in most countries, the left has been marginalized. And the left has to build from the center-left outward.
Yes, right.
We have to
Yes, right.
draw in and build our strength because we're fighting an extreme right.
Yeah,
So we
okay.
can't fight amongst each other.
Yes.
We have to draw the forces of the people together.
Yeah.
Everybody who's interested and worried about the problems of the people should form one group and try to fight the far right. The far right is very dangerous. So in the global South in particular, we need to strengthen this pole. It's very different in Europe or in the States where the center left has collapsed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes,
Okay, in our country, center left hasn't collapsed. I mean, in Indonesia, the center left still exists,
yes.
and it's still in debate and dispute. Within it, there are all kinds of currents. Our friend Bonnie is within the center left tradition.
Yes, right.
Yeah, he's fighting to pull the center left to the people. We need to be there to listen to what he has to say. He's a very important political intellectual. I would like to have his voice be heard in other parts of the world and so on. So this is, in a sense, what we are interested in. Is we want to lift up the heralds of the people, the voices of the people, the leaders of popular movements, the leaders of popular parties. Popular meaning movements of the people, movements of the political parties that are committed to the people, not in name only. They call themselves people something, but they don't really do anything. I don't mean that. We can assess that. We are clever enough to assess it. Those that are truly progressive, we want to lift them up.
I'd like to think that what you're doing is like not really establishing, but re-establishing, not really connecting, but reconnecting. Because I believe that what was left in after 65 is still there in Indonesian society. I still know a lot of people in the village named after their son, Pak Tafid, which is the name given by
Soekarno's speech.
Soekarno's speech,
In the
Vivere
65.
Years of
64.
Living Dangerously, tahun Vivere Pericoloso, which was very famous at that time. Or Nevo, Ganevo. I still have friend named Ganevo.
Emerging forces.
Emerging forces, which is a project to formulate what is concrete situation, social economic situation after Bandung Conference, which is what I'm trying to say is because our time is come already up. I was already signed that I have to close. I want to have your final thought on how in our time using especially media, using especially our medium right now, a podcast, or you as a scholar, how to rekindle this spirit of Bandung.
I mean, look, we did this book together.
Yes,
Yeah?
right.
This is our book. Yeah, we brought it out from GDN Press. Yeah.
I will
Take the
advertise this. Dibeli ya, Bangsa Kulit Berwarna dari bukunya Darker Nation.
Iya.
Nanti kalau ini bisa ngubungi Mas Angga.
Okay.
Oke, sorry.
No, I'm saying this because we brought this book.
Yes.
This book tries to tell the story of the Bandung
Of the
spirit.
Bandung spirits.
I don't think 1 million people will read it.
Yes, right.
But if 50 people read it, 100 people read it, I want them to take the story to 100 more, 100 more, 100 more. We want the Bandung spirit to come back into Indonesia to be rekindled. That's why this book is there. We want to have your show, other shows, talk again about the Bandung spirit. Obviously, you are already talking about it. That's your show.
Yes.
But let's talk about it openly.
Yeah.
People say, you can't say this, you can't say that. Okay, let's say it until we can't say it.
Okay.
Let's say it until we can't say it. We're talking today.
Hmm.
It's two people's birthday today.
Yeah.
And I want to end my reflection with that.
Okay.
One is Kartini. It's Kartini Day, April 21st.
21st.
It's a day of education for girls.
Yeah.
It's a day of education for poor girls.
Emancipation. No?
Emancipation, but also education.
Yeah.
For poor girls, not just girls. Kartini didn't have to say education for girls because rich girls were getting educated at home.
Yeah.
Education for poor girls is the main issue. Kartini shares a birthday with Vladimir Lenin, another person interested in education. Vladimir Lenin's wife, Krupskaya, was an educator.
Krupskaya.
She wrote about education. The main thing is enlightenment. What's wrong with enlightenment? Enlightenment was what the Buddha sought. What did the Buddha seek? The Buddha went outside and saw a dead man dying and felt bad.
Hmm.
Buddha went outside and saw a poor person unable to eat and felt sad. Buddha went outside and saw a girl crying and felt bad. Buddha had dukkha, sorrow.
Okay, sad.
Buddha had sorrow at seeing the ugliness of the world.
Mhm.
And Buddha said, I am going to go out and sit in the forest and search for why there is dukkha in the world and we have to abolish dukkha.
Hmm.
Enlightenment, to find out why there's suffering in the world and to end it. Kartini,
Yeah.
Lenin,
Yeah.
you, you, you.
You want to jump in for your final thought?
It's okay. It's interesting. The Vijay Prashad said about. I learned from the conversation between Sukarno and C.D. Adams when in the 20s something, he came to the Bandung village in the Cigareleng and he had conversations with the peasant. The name is the Marhaen, Kang Marhaen. Sukarno asked the peasant then, Kang Marhaen, what is your life? Yes, I have a small land. I have the tools to product.
Sickle, ya?
Sickle, yes. And then, what the benefit? What the income for it? Is very. I live very poor. I cannot pay for the life of my family and everything. Oh, he said, he thinks about that, and he come to the ideas about Marhaen and Marhaenism. He said that the middle class or the people and then the petty peasants in Indonesia, he has the land, he has the sickle and everything, but he cannot live in prosperity. Why? This is not only about the colonialism in Holland from the Dutch, but also the system of capitalism. He said the system of capitalism, the stelsel of capitalism prevent him to live enjoy in happiness. And then he created from that stories about the Marhaenism, socio-nationalism, socio-democracy, and become our foundation of country, Pancasila. This is related to the story of Vijay.
As much as I want to continue this conversation,
We can't.
because I have still a lot of things I want to talk about. But in the end, I want to conclude with what you said earlier about that the message of Marxism, people don't like it and break. It's basically meaning that you break the mirror where you take a look at yourself, the ugliness of yourself.
Bung Winarko.
And interestingly, there is a saying in Indonesia exactly with the kind of meaning.
Yes.
Buruk muka cermin dibelah. Meaning that if you take a look at yourself in the mirror and,
Yes, right.
and what you saw is ugly, then you break the mirror.
Yes.
Not realizing why you ugly. But I want to take your commitment and tricontinental
Yes.
expected that we can still invite you to this forum
Yes.
if possible, and we can
Yes, right.
talk further
Yeah.
about your next
Bung
project.
Winarko, we can continue our conversation in other countries, maybe in Vijay countries.
Yes.
Yes.
Come and visit me.
Okay.
Bring the boys with you.
Yes.
Bung Vijay Prashad,
Thank you
Yes.
for this.
honor to be accompanied by such a prolific thinker.
Yes, right.
It's a joy. It's a joy.
Thank you again. Enjoy your
Excellent.
stay in Indonesia.
Already love it.
Merdeka.
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 Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Mantap.
Terima
mantap.
kasih.